right, so this is the first of several of the communication lectures. And so what we're going to do is go through and look at how animals communicate. And so start with a definition. And what is communication? This is kind of fancy. I just picked one. There's tons of them out there. But Wilson, 1975. An action on the part of one organism that alters the probability pattern of behavior in another organism in a fashion adaptive to either one or both of the participants. So lots to look at, lots to think about. And so it's, the idea is that some individual is giving a signal and then another individual is receiving that signal. And so that's kind of a way of looking at it. And again, there's lots of different ways, and don't memorize this word for word. So here we have two primates, and there's some communication going on. So when you look at this, we often look at these in our context. And when we're in class in person, I often ask, what are you seeing? And trying to get people to think about what is being communicated. So we have the individual over here on the left, and he's got this, I'm assuming, it could be a she. This individual has their arm out, hand out, palm raised up, and we might think, oh, let me give you a hand, let me give you some help. Actually, we find out with the palm raised up in primates, often that is a submission posture, so that might be it. So again, you'd have to watch these animals for a long time and kind of look at the different things, and that's why we put together ethograms and tried to understand in the context we're seeing it what it means. All right, so Wiley also saying the reason I picked his behavior definition, he came up with some of these different ideas on how you have your senders and your receivers and what they're getting out of this. So here we go. We have two individuals, and if he believes that if you have something positive on both sides, both individuals are gaining something, he calls that true communication. If one is getting a positive out of it, the other one's getting zero or more likely negative, they call that a manipulation. Yeah, when I was teaching to Tim, he was funny. He'd get mad at me because when he was young and stupid, he would jump off the handle. So if I wanted something brought up at one of our department meetings, I share an office with him. So I'd just say something, and then he'd bring it up, and then everybody would hate him and think he's an ass. So he finally figured out I was manipulating him. I really wasn't. I just would mention something, and he would take it. And then I figured out it worked, so it was in my benefit. The other one, he has a positive and zero or negative. It's eavesdropping. In other words, somebody's putting a signal out there, and somebody is benefiting it on the other side. Somebody's getting something positive from it, and the sender may not know, or well, actually, the sender probably does not know, and then that could be either no real effect on that individual, or it could be detrimental. And then when both of them just aren't even paying attention to each other, he called that ignoring. So this is kind of the idea. I want you to know these four. So this is kind of our basic structure, although I think it's really a little bit more complicated than this. So here's a slide that kind of explains all that. So be sure you get this and kind of that information. So probably on your next test or even a quiz, if we decide to do a quiz, you will, get some kind of scenario and be asked what is occurring. And just to give you a couple of examples to kind of start off, alarm calls are a very normal thing for prey items, animals that have predators in the making, especially the ones that live in family groups. And we'll talk about some of these later, but I just wanted to start out with a couple of behaviors rather than just definitions. So vervet monkeys are known to do this. We have a local squirrel, beachy ground squirrel or California ground squirrel is one that'll do this. And if you're walking over in parks and stuff and there's these squirrels around, you'll hear a high-pitched call, and that high-pitched call actually sounds almost bird-like, but it's not a bird. If you know what it is, you know it's a squirrel. We were in the wildlife sanctuary one time, and we heard the squirrels are pretty used to people being in there, but this squirrel was just going off, and it was this class. We were doing a little tour down there, and we were laughing because it's like, we're not sure what's going on with that guy. And it turned out there was a owl in the tree right above us. And one student just goes, maybe it's the owl. So that was definitely warning the others that there was an owl up in the tree. Now, the chances of it coming down during the day, probably slim, but still possible. And so anyway, so talking about vervet monkeys, they have multiple different calls, and each call will mean something. They'll get a chutter, and the chutter means that there is a snake, which means that the threat's coming from the ground, so they'll typically race up a tree. Then they got the cough, which means there's an eagle. Now, the eagle is obviously up in the sky, coming down, so they will try to get themselves under something. And then the leopard is almost a barking noise, and for the leopards can climb trees. So they'll go up in the tree, but they've got to get all the way up where the animal is too heavy. So each one of these, even if you don't see the animal, is going to cause a behavior out of you just because you know what it means. All right, and then the last one is we're going to use zebras, and horses do the same thing. And there's a video I want you to watch on the horse whisperer, and we'll talk about those during our Zoom. But there are two kinds of signals. There's what we call a discrete signal and a graded signal. Discrete signals are kind of this all or nothing. It's like an on-off switch. So pointed up in equine usually means a greeting, and then laid back across the head is a threat. And again, these animals don't read the book, so don't count on that. But that's typically what that means. And then we have graded, which means there's lots and lots of little various subtle levels of this. And so if the mouth is closed, it's a mild signal, but if the mouth is open, it's more intense. So if you've got the ears laid back and the mouth open, you do not want to walk up to that zebra. I just don't advise it. And zebras can be pretty nasty, even more so than horses. They're pretty aggressive if they want to be. All right, and that will stop the first recording.